Right. So we are on Zoom, and the great thing about those of you guys on Zoom, I'll be paying attention to the chat roll and the comments that's running through on there. But we are also live on Bedroom Candy's Instagram page because we don't always get to go live. We got a lot of people over there who clearly signed up for who want to see what all of this is about. So we're going to make sure as we phase into the portion where we get a little deeper into some of the toys, most of everything that I'm going to be pulling out tonight is appropriate to show online on social media. So you guys shouldn't really miss out on anything. And then after this event, everybody who's registered for the event is going to get a link to the replay, and you're going to get a link to the resource guide that I'm also going to be showing you guys throughout the event tonight, which will allow you some deeper time to kind of get into it and, get a little bit more into it. So just to kick off tonight, let me first go ahead and hit record because I ain't going to get no replay if I don't press record, right? I should probably do that. Let me go ahead and do that. I don't know who else is guilty of that. Y'all on the Zoom and forget to hit record.
Recording in progress.
Y'all heard that? We are recording. We are recording. All right, guys. So tonight's event is really, first of all, we want to just celebrate that this is an event that's happening during Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Right? It's why it's so important to have this conversation. Now, my name is Kasha Johnson. I am the head of training at Bedroom Candy, and I'm also a board certified clinical sexologist. I've been in this industry for about 10, going on 11 years this year. Actually, the end of this month will be 11 years in the industry for me. And this is one of those subjects that I'm super, super passionate about, right? We always talk about sexuality. We always talking about getting to the orgasms. We always get to those things. But the reality of it is that a lot of those conversations don't come without dealing with some of the other things that get in the way of that for us, right? So that doesn't have to be the deepest level of trauma, right? Something like sexual assault or domestic violence. It could be you just had an experience, even sexually, right, that caused you to, or you never really got the opportunity to really get into yourself, understand what that looks like, build your self-esteem, look at yourself in the mirror and go, God damn, you fine. You haven't had the opportunity to feel that way about yourself maybe, right? So there's so many different definitions of trauma, and that even includes individuals who undergo medical conditions that impact your sexuality and your sex life. Right? We don't always talk about that, but people who are going through chemo and radiation and therapy, people who have things like tilted uteruses or vaginismus, those different conditions that are specific that can also really get in the way are very relevant to the conversation as well. And then we wonder why sometimes when we get into the bedroom with a partner, or if we're trying to figure out how to get back to the bedroom with the partner, that becomes a little bit of uncomfortable area for someone where you can't release your full sexual savage, right? Your alter ego, right? That's tucked away, that's just been waiting to get raw and come out. And I'll tell you guys personally, the reason why this conversation is so important to me is because I am trauma. Okay? I always tell people I was actually born into it, right? My mother gave birth to me while mourning the death of my father. Right? So when I came into this world, I had a grieving woman nursing me. Okay? And that's where it began. I didn't know that at one point, but then as I got older, I started to look back and be like, whoa, your introduction to life started that way. Right? And then as we went on and things go further, I learned later my mom had a mental disorder known as bipolar. Right? So now that depression starts to kick in, and sometimes you're being raised with a parent who one day, who you're going to look at. One day she waking me up, she got grits, she got biscuits, it's cheese in it, it's butter in it. Next thing she waking me up like, Heifer, get up, you got to go. I'm like, okay, what did I do? I just went to sleep and woke up. So, it was like she was literally, the frame, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. That was my mama. I didn't know whether if I bit the chocolate, I was going to get the good one that got the nut in the middle, or it was going to be that nasty one with the strawberry filling that nobody, you know how you bite the chocolate and you sample it and then you put it back like this ain't the one I was looking for, but you can't tell from the outside which chocolate you about to get. That was my mama. Okay, that was my mom. Is the best way I can put it into terms, right? But the way that started to impact me growing up is I didn't really, even as a very young child, sometimes her condition caused a lot of issues for me and my siblings. I went into foster care. I was separated from my siblings at a point in life and coming back. And all of these things are trauma, right? Because that little girl time that I should have been learning certain things from my mom or the women, I wasn't getting that, right? So even from then, you're winging it. You're trying to figure it out. You don't know what it looked like. Now, at the same time, I realized I continue to grow, and then sexuality came into place. And let me tell you something. Even the day I lost my virginity was as a result of that same trauma. I didn't lose my virginity because I wanted to. I lost my virginity because my mama said that I was already doing it. And I was like, just to spite her, well, since you keep saying I'm doing it, might as well go on out there and do it. And then realizing, like, that's not the right reason to do it. Right? So even that introduction to sex was by way of finding a way at my own teenage period of life to spite my own parent. Right? So you don't necessarily realize how your life decisions get impacted by these things. Now, for some people at that young age, it could be an introduction to some type of molestation, a sexual predator, or abuse, physical abuse, all that kind of stuff. You could be witnessing a parent or someone who cares for you go through domestic related situations. It could be any of those things, but that exposure, right, definitely taints not only your relationship with yourself, your love for yourself, but what you think love looks like from others. Right? And that's another big important part, because we really can't teach others how to take care of us, how to please us, how to satisfy us, when we don't always have the best understanding or image of what love is supposed to look like. Right? So that's one special cocktail. Right? Went on a little bit further or whatever the case is. Now, I'll be the first to tell y'all, I was the girl because, I was always told you should never do this. And my mother was like, oh, you don't give no guy head. So I was out there, you would never catch these lips, never catch it. Now I'm out here teaching people how to give head. So, things can change. Okay? Things can change. Now I'll be out here like I could be on a poster child for go ahead and suck something or lick something. You know what I mean? I'm out here like Oprah. You go get some head. You can get some head, But my introduction to that was also something that was a little bit of a, situation of, I had watched by that time, I had already stumbled upon the cable channels that wasn't real, kind of pornographic channels. But, you had those special channels that was like Access or some weird town channel that showed certain things at 2 a.m. So I used to stumble upon those channels and I was watching them. And then I would be grinding against my sheets and this and that, not understanding that I was actually beginning to masturbate, right? I didn't know that, right? I just knew that just kind of like watching it or, BET Uncut, that right there'll do it too, okay? Right? They don't got that no more, but I was just sitting there just grinding and I'm like, why do I feel this way? Why do I, it's nice. I want to stop it. But even from then, it's that kind of like you doing it in a hiding way. If you had those old school remotes, you had your finger on the last channel button to make sure you could hit that baby back real quick. So that the next time somebody walk up in the room, you already know how to flip the script back to where it was. So this is essentially how I began, right? And then one day I climbed into the bathtub, y'all. Okay, I climbed into the bathtub, and before I was using the shower. Now we had the detachable shower head with the 3 different jets, all that kind of stuff. And I liked how that one felt on my body. But I went to go hang it up on top of the shower at one point, right? And it fell. It wasn't fully snapped in. So the head, how if it falls, it just kind of does what it want to do. It'd be like that, swinging the water all around. But that baby passed by the in-between of my legs. And I was like, bring that back. Run me that again. So the next thing you know, and everybody will tell you till to this day, I spent a lot of time in the bathtub. And that's where it all started. Because my first toy was the shower head, okay? That was the first time that I realized, wait a minute, when you put something down below, something happens, and I think I like that, right? But I'll tell you guys, that adventure, that journey through sexuality, again, always things that gets tainted. That same parent of mine, right, guys, ended up going into substance related issues after losing her dad. So now there's a whole nother bottle of traumatic exposure, right? Ended up in a relationship with someone at a very vulnerable point in my life that became a domestically abusive one, right? So not knowing what the signs looked like, right? They're doing all of the verbal cues, the emotional cues, the financial abuse cues, but I don't know what that looks like. I'm thinking until they hit you, it's not abuse. And I also saw my mom get abused. So I was like, can't catch me going through that. I know what it looks like. But it took for it to escalate to a point of physical abuse before I realized, wait a minute, this ain't right. Now, I'll tell you this. I learned that day what being a fierce mama bear became, because I happened to have my firstborn child. He was just an infant when this incident happened, and something kicked in, right? that made me stop. Oh no, this is not it. And I was able to get myself out of that situation in a way that I haven't before. But even now, as a older woman, looking back, thinking my main motivation from getting away from that abusive man was because I was now a mother, not because sis is just wrong for you, right? When it should be first, right? The womanhood becomes before the motherhood. Motherhood is an extension of womanhood. Why did it take motherhood for my womanhood to step up and realize that? So these are all these little cocktails of experiences that experience to me, that I experienced, but also not knowing what a clear visual of assault looks like. Because I had a stepbrother who used to make me watch him stroke his, situation. But he didn't touch me. I didn't touch him. So in my head as a little kid, there's nothing wrong with that. So it's all of these things that sometimes get introduced in a way that you have no idea are actual forms of trauma until you get a little bit older, right? If you gave birth to a child, there's trauma. If you've experienced, and I'm going to say trigger warning, any type of loss of a child, trauma, right? If you experience the loss of a loved one, especially an intimate one, trauma. So let's just get straight to this, right? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you this screen, but then after that, we're going to come off because I'm going to talk through this to you guys until it comes time to get a little bit more visual. Trauma, right? A trauma response is a deeply upsetting event or circumstance. So basically, trauma is defined as a deeply distressing or disturbing circumstance. If you have experienced a deeply distressing or disturbing circumstance, let me know if that's you, right? If you're on the chat, let me know. If you're on Instagram, let me know. If you have experienced a deeply distressing or disturbing experience, let me know. Right? So, because sometimes we think about the word trauma and we automatically place that in the deepest of the pool. And if that is your pool, great. But that doesn't mean that's the only pools. Okay? So we got natural disasters. We have accidents, right? We have sexual assaults. We have different acts of violence to one another. Any kind of things can be considered traumatic, right? But understanding that the bottom line is that after you come out of it, you're now finding yourself affected by it. Okay? There's no boundaries for trauma. There's no age boundary. Trauma doesn't care about gender. Trauma doesn't care about race. They don't care about whether you rich or you poor. They don't care about your sexual orientation. It doesn't care. Trauma will come for you. But the goal of this conversation is not to focus on that. Because I love to see everyone at a point in which you can acknowledge your trauma. You can speak about your trauma, but you are no longer traumatized. That's the difference. Okay? That is the difference. The way I can sit here and have a conversation with you guys, the way I can talk about the things that I have been through, but not be triggered and brought to tears by having that conversation, is because you do the work that brings you to a place that is no longer traumatized by it, where I can acknowledge that it's a part of my story, that it will forever be a part of me, that it'll forever have shaped and molded me, and all this stuff I'll be serving, you know what I'm saying? All this energy I'll be giving is because of what I had to come through to give it, right? What I had to come through to give it. It's only a short change to myself and the world if I don't share it. Bottom line. Because other people's trauma, other people's experiences can grow you. So when people ask me questions, sometimes I get people who message me, they're like, oh, how are you this? Or how are you that? How are you this? How are you that? Because I had to take that first step to actually look it in the face and acknowledge that it exists. And sometimes we can't get beyond it because we haven't even said to it, I see you. So we gotta think about this, right? We know that there are a lot of different types of things. It could be from service in the military. Post-traumatic stress disorder comes into, right? PTSD, known as that. And individuals who've experienced those types of things as well. I'll give you an example. I had a client that I worked with. It was a woman who came to me, and she came to me because she wanted to do some more risque things with her husband. She liked to be choked and slammed and all that fun stuff, but he wouldn't get that rough with her. What I learned about this couple is that husband of hers happened to be someone who served in the military and had been deployed and at war more than once, right? More than once. And when I found that information out, I asked his wife, I said, has it ever occurred to you that he won't choke you because he's scared he'll kill you? You got to realize that person has hands trained to take a life. And that person had like this awakening, because sometimes we're so focused on what we need to get out of something that we're not even taking into account another person's experiences, and that what you're not getting from them may not be as a result of them not wanting to give it, but them not being able to give it. He looked at his wife and he said to her, I don't talk about what happened when I was away because I'm triggered by it. But the thought of potentially forgetting where I'm at while I'm in bed with my wife, and that becoming a situation that I'm sitting in a precinct answering questions about later, is something that I can't possibly deal with. So you want to know the most interesting thing about this couple? I actually recommended them to go visit a friend of mine who happened to be a professional dominant, BDSM dominant, someone who I knew took a great deal of priority in making sure that they educated themselves in that area, but also went to school for psychology as well. So they got into BDSM, but they actually had a PhD in psychology. I had them go and see that person. And the reason why, and we'll talk about it a little deeper in a little while, is because the practices of BDSM emphasize principles of negotiation, safety, right? Making sure things are consensual, making sure that you have safe words, making sure you have boundaries, but also having that guidance is something that can help pull you out. Right? Because that person could go into what we call sleeper cell mode and forget, you know what I mean? And I'm over here, the lotus flowers, blossoms in the spring, wake up, wake up. But you have to, do it in a way that it's guided so where they can feel safe. 2 years later, that man choking that girl. Let me tell you something, he's choking her. Okay? She getting slammed left and right, the way she want to be handled. But it took for them to acknowledge that this is the reason that their sexual life was impacted in that way. So the first thing I want to ask everyone here to do, okay, is if that is you, we've acknowledged, right, that you had a deeply distressing and disturbing event. I want you to first clap it up for yourself real quick. Because a whole bunch of people in the chat was like, yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. I'm acknowledging that I have trauma. Clap it up, clap it up, clap it up. Because that is step one. Step one of recovery is acknowledgement. What happens when people go to Alcoholics Anonymous? They say, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I am an alcoholic. Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I am an addict. You have to first acknowledge that it is there, in order for you to get to the point and realize that that's going to forever be a part of you. It's going to forever be a part of you. That's okay. It doesn't have to be you. It don't have to control you. Right? So I want to commend you, because even if you're here listening to this conversation today, that means some part of you read what this event was about to be and said, I need to be there. There's something about me that needs this. So shout out to you. Shout out to you. Okay? Now, the reason why this conversation is based around pleasure mapping after trauma, right, is because pleasure mapping is a tool, right, that some of us may have done and not really known that we did, but there are ways that you can do it that make you super, super, super effective at learning things about yourself and your partners that you may have not ever known. I have had couples married a decade or two, right, who have done this and be like, I ain't never realized that. Here's the other thing about pleasure mapping. You got to regularly do it. For me, it's an annual thing, because things that happen this year can affect how you show up next year, right? So sometimes we think we have an understanding of what we enjoy and what we like, and then things change, right? Because there are certain things that I know for a fact that I was like, I ain't doing this, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing this, I ain't doing that. And then I found myself open to it later, right? So you got to always kind of go back to that drawing board with yourself, right? So that you are able to verbalize and communicate to your partner the things that actually feel good to you. Or if you're someone who may have experienced some form of sexual assault and you have not reintroduced yourself to sex again after it, a lot of that is going to heavily, heavily rely on you having an understanding of what sexuality is for you first. Right? Because it comes with a lot of pressure to think about not only overcoming my own situation, but finding the words to help make sure that somebody else don't re-trigger me is a whole thing in its own. But that conversation comes with having the confidence. And that confidence doesn't exist about doing your own body's research. Right? So let's talk about pleasure mapping just a little bit. We're not going to read all of the fine print. Again, y'all going to get this in the email, so don't worry about that, okay? And matter of fact, we're going to just do this because I don't even want your eyes too focused on what you're reading. We're going to talk about it, okay? So what pleasure mapping is understanding a map of your pleasure. Just like when you're trying to get anywhere, you set forth, you put it in a map. Back in the days, people used to do it with a piece of paper. Right? Later on, we got a little bit more inventive, MapQuest and stuff like that. You still had to print out the paper, but MapQuest was at least going to show you the way. We wasn't drawing lines. Now you got GPS, who's going to be like, they're going to literally tell you, recalculating route, all that kind of stuff. So basically, Y'all, that is not me. That's not my voice on those systems, though. But I am, if y'all know somebody who hiring for that, just let them know I want the job, because I've been practicing. I've been practicing. At the next right, turn left. Or, in 400 kilometers. I've been practicing. I've really been. That's the silent check that I need. But anyway, the bottom line is we're going to be finding our way there. But there's never a way that you get lost. And I say this all the time. And if you're a bedroom candy consultant and you ain't never heard me say it and you ain't been on a call, then that means we got beef. But GPS will never say, I'm sorry, you can't get there. Never. So you never tell yourself, I'm sorry, I can't get there. Right? This map is about figuring out the routes, trying this. Maybe it didn't work. Okay, hold on. Halt, traffic stop. We're going to stop there. We got to make another different turn. It's about figuring out which things is your groove. And when you recognize what they are, keeping an inventory in yourself about what they are. Okay? So thinking about pleasure mapping is the process of spending intentional time. And I'm going to pause on that word, intentional time. We ain't squeezing this in. Now, what that means is if you happen to be like me and you got those nappy-headed children, they're beautiful and all, but we're not squeezing this in. Make sure that they settled, or they got a babysitter or something. You want to make sure nothing's going to interrupt your opportunity to get in tune with you, because that could blow your whole first experience of this. I'm going to tell you that. Right? Now, I will tell you, when I began my journey with pleasure mapping, it happened while I was 120 pounds heavier than I am today. Okay? 120 pounds heavier. And the reason why I started it then was because I had gained so much weight so quickly that even though I always felt like, girl, okay, you still got it going on, there was a part of me that was subconscious about things. I would not enjoy climbing on top of nobody. I'm going to tell you straight up. I was like, who want Free Willy jumping up and down on top of you? Right? I'm over here, the whole ocean's coming up every time I hit you. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. That's how I felt. You couldn't tell me that's not what it was. That's not what was happening to the room. And then the bed ain't, let me tell you something about the bed. The bed ain't sugar, honey, iced tea, because we're going to say this because we're on a corporate call. Because the bed be telling on you too. The whole bed makes sure you hear every movement. It'd be like, doom, 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 doom. I'm like, you know what? So I had a problem with that. The other thing that I also would not do, right, is I didn't have any kind of sexual interactions or anything like that without like a tank top or something on. I had what I call today at-home flawlessness. What that means is at-home flawlessness is defined as something that's going to make me feel flawless at home, meaning it's not a t-shirt. It's not a t-shirt. It's going to give you a little bit of cleavage because my breasts were an asset, okay? You need to see those. So we got a nice low-cut something, but it's going to hang a little bit with some freedom so it could cover the stomach, you know what I'm talking about? So we're going to have a little bit of looseness there. And then I got the boy shorts because I didn't like my butt in a thong, contrary to belief. I know a lot of y'all done seen what that look like, but back in the day, I wouldn't do it. I would not put a thong on, right? So I used to get boy shorts because I knew that was going to bring the cuffage out, right? And I would sit home and pretend like I wasn't ready for what was about to come inside me later on that day, right? When they show, oh, hey, how you doing? Ready for it. But when it was time to get busy, I would take off the boy shorts, but I would leave on the tank top. Because also climbing on top, if I did decide to do it, made me feel like the spectacle is on me. Like spotlight, you know what I mean? So now this person's under me, they're looking at me, and I feel like I got to perform. I can't do this feet in the bed thing at this time. No, sir, we're going to have to figure out a modification, right? But that was essentially what it looked like. So in order to pleasure map myself at that size, I had to get comfortable with that size. How I started doing that, I actually used to set the mood for myself, right? This is going to sound like, might sound like nothing. But it really did it for me. I'm someone who's really responsive to music. I'm someone who's really responsive to water, right? So you got to think about what your things are. What are the things that make you feel very relaxed and soothing? It could be the certain candle fragrance. It could be whatever the case is. But I used to set the mood for myself. I bought myself a bottle. You know what I mean? Definitely water sign girl because I'm Pisces. But it could be a bottle of oil on the side. You know, I like how it felt to get rubbed down and stuff like that. So what I used to do is do that. I used to have the little red light bulb. And I didn't have the professional things. So I used to have to hang my shirt over the lamp to give it the nice gloomy, red light special look or whatever case. We get creative. And then I will put on the songs that had me feeling very, sensual and sexy. This started by me literally just buying lingerie and getting dressed for me. Putting on certain mood music, having a glass of wine, and that would be it. So that's where I started. Because I had to figure out what got me into the mental space before I could think about what got me into the physical space, right? So for there's a lot of ways that you can go about doing that. What that looks like today is even more elaborate or whatever the case is sometimes. And this is not an all the time thing, but when you got time or you need to make time, make that time for yourself. You know what I mean? So while you're pleasure mapping, the basic goal, right? Because there's no real true goal. You don't know what's going to happen or what's going to come out of it. But you're looking to figure out what your body's yes responses and no responses are, right? And what you'll also find later is that figuring out what makes you say yes is going to help you figure out how to say no to a lot of stuff that don't. And that don't just pertain to sexuality. I'm going to tell you something right now. Before I'm about to make a decision to help anybody out, I go ahead and have me a good old orgasm. And if I think that I'm about to do something dumb, I'm telling you, I come back and I'm thinking a whole nother way. You know what I'm saying? You ever about to do something stupid, Listen, come and then revisit that thought. I promise you'll have clarity. You'll be like, you know what? I don't even need that in my life right now. I'm good. I'm just, I don't think I want to watch your kids next weekend, actually. No, I do not have $50 for you today, right? You literally make a lot of decisions sometimes out of the way of just kind of like getting it out the way or frustration or whatever the case is without realizing I need to settle myself down. And you know what else it is? Like I used to feel bad about saying no, but when I'm in that space, I don't feel bad about anything. I just came. I feel great, actually. I feel good about this. So no, so no, right? So you got to ask yourself what that looks like. So you're looking to figure out what your yes responses and no responses from your body. Your body's telling you, yes, I love this. Your body's telling you, no, I don't think I'm feeling this. And sometimes your body's like, I might need to feel a little different way before I can make a decision on it. So the questions you're asking yourself is, where do I like to be touched? Where do I not like to be touched? Right? My recommendations for starting this, I'm going to tell you as you're building it up, start with sensation before you go into any direct stimulation of your genital areas. Reason why I say that, and this is especially important for men, okay? So guys on the line, I really need y'all to listen to this statement, okay? Men are already accustomed to the average partner, if you have a partner who is female, male, whatever it is, focusing on your penis as your only pleasure zone. Right? I'll be the first to admit, look, I'm never pro female, pro male, pro non, any of that. I'm pro right. And the bottom line is I know that foreplay is usually heavily swayed on getting to all of this. But 9 times out of 10 for a male, foreplay looks like maybe giving them head, maybe kissing them, and maybe kissing their ear or neck or something like that. And that's about it. Right? So most men are not actually used to figuring out what other places that they experience pleasure at. They don't know if they like to be touched there because ain't nobody touching them there, right? So that's a really important thing. And that applies to everyone, but just a special emphasis, right, for men on that part of it, right? So you're figuring out where you like to be touched, okay, beyond the genitals. So you can kind of I use different things to add sensation. I start with my regular hand, and then the areas that I discover, I kind of like that. I like to make them more sensitive, right? So what does that look like, right? I'll show you guys first and foremost some of my favorite little wind down things, for wind down products or whatever the case is. I like to use our CBD collection to get myself in the mental space. Okay, so we got this CBD serum. Let me tell you something. I take this like this, just like this, and I get a little bit on my fingertips right here, and I start with my temples, right? Especially if you had a long day. Especially if you dealt with a lot. I just start just like that and I decompress. The right music is playing. I'm over there like this. I'm calling you through. I'm doing all of that. Oops, there goes my shirt. This is me. He's so contagious. Right? Never seen somebody touch their temples so damn sexy until you see. Because, baby, this temples is getting the rub like that. They getting all of that. So, but what's happening is that the CBD, the lavender, and the relaxation from the CBD is actually helping to relax yourself. And it actually helps you remove a lot of tension from your head. Why is this important? Ladies, I haven't talked to the guys. I got to talk to y'all a little bit. We are notorious multitaskers who can't get out of our head, right? Even in bed, we think about what we got to do, right? Even in bed. After this, I got to put that stuff in the dryer. I still got to wash those dishes. I still got to cook that thing. Still got to do this for tomorrow, right? So sometimes for us, we notoriously can't dial out and notoriously cannot enjoy pleasure because we haven't figured out how to first mentally set that aside. So for me, I am one of those people who sometimes is dealing with so much that I have to like remind myself to intentionally not be dealing with it during that moment, right? So the CBD really helps with that, but it's also phenomenal for any aches and pains. And I get a lot of tension in my head. We carry a lot of tension in our hands. And if you happen to have a partner, or if you're a man, you want to give yourself a little bit of that, twisty action, or whatever the case is, I don't want you developing carpal tunnel from a little bit of, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So go ahead and put some CBD and relax those fingers before they start to get to work on, or, start hitting that action. You see how quick them fingers move? No pain, baby, no pain. So, me, I was like a guitar hero. I don't know why I never got into playing no instruments, but I would be up there like, I would give, if y'all applied y'all clitoris flick to a guitar, I promise you'd be like a Grammy Award winning guitarist, because we got it. We got that joint in the back. Guys, too, y'all, because I ain't gonna lie, I enjoy stroking whatever cases, but that right there, the way them hands, when you really trying to get that right there, the way them hands be, y'all are talented. That's talent. You know what I'm saying? You got to figure out what you can put that to use to outside of the bedroom, because that's talent. This is talent. Okay? So I definitely like to use that. We got like the relaxation creams and stuff like that. And I'm a bath person. And when I'm having my own personal masturbation sessions, I like to do it in the tub. Often. If I got me a hotel or something, that's different, because I'm gonna mess up their towels and their sheets. But if I could avoid messing up my own sheets and towels, like, I'm gonna do that just because I just put those on yesterday and I really don't want to change them today. But there is a such thing on Amazon. They're known as squirt pads. Thank me later. If you decide that the bed is your place of that, and they're washable, guys, you can, cover up and still keep your brand new sheets clean. But essentially, I like the bathtub because it's easy cleanup. Right? Go down the drain with the rest of it. So what I like to do is use that, get myself a bubble bath, right? And, you can put in, we have like something called bubbly. And the reason why I like bubbly is because I also have skin that, I had eczema my whole life. And it isn't really a problem for me today because I'm so deep on my skincare, but it still every now and again becomes a thing I got to deal with. So I like bubbly because it has shea butter in its formula. So actually, every time I sit in it, I'm kind of soaking my body in moisture while getting the bubble bath thing going. So that's my personal fave. And if you're a bath person, add it to the cart. I'm not trying to have nobody broke by the end of tonight. That's what wish lists are for. But just giving y'all that tip if you're somebody who likes being in a tub. Okay, so bubbly, Beverly Candy bubbly. And then the other stuff was unwind. So there's like the unwind relaxation creams or the CBD serum, right, as an option of some things that you can look at. And with CBD, just so y'all know, we have full lab reports and stuff like that. Sometimes people are like wanting to make sure that stuff is what it's supposed to be. It is. Okay, so those are some of my favorite things to kind of get the thing going. Now, after you're figuring out where you want to be touched, the other thing you have to think about is how you like to be touched. Certain things you want like a sensual feel. Some things you want a little bit more pressure. Right? Certain areas of your body respond to different types of touches a little differently. That applies to even the feeling of licking and kissing, right? And suction, right? I say this because I remember once with one of my partners who really thought for his whole life that he didn't like his ears being played with because he didn't like the feeling of like just somebody going and licking at them. It was a little too wet of an experience for him, right? But he didn't. What we coming to find out was that he didn't mind that lick as long as it was covered by the lips that kind of sucks up the moisture that licking leaves behind. So, and also suction gives a different feel. So it turns out he did like his ears played with, just not in that fashion. So you got to recognize that pleasure mapping also comes into figuring out, do I like a gentle touch? Do I like a suction? Do I want to lick? Do I want to kiss? Do I want to rub? Do I want to spank? Right? Do I like how that sounds when I hear that? Right? So you got to kind of get into that. How do you like to be touched? But also, how do you not like to be touched? Right? Because sometimes being touched a certain way can be a trigger. Right? A person just put like, hold on, that, so someone you ready to post up, like, wait a minute, I don't know, let me calm my fingers down. But sometimes being touched a certain way can also be the same thing. And sometimes people have traumas that are pushed down so far that they don't even recognize that they exist until someone trips it. Right? I'll tell you, I got some of the most interesting clients. My job is never, ever, ever boring. But I actually had someone who drop kicked his girl because she touched him in an area that he, and he suppressed his childhood sexual trauma so far that he forgot he was molested until she did that thing. Right? And it might not sound crazy. I had another client who had a girl who wouldn't allow his partners to give him oral sex, right? As much as he wanted it, he had a threesome back in college with his friend, and his friend might have hit the girl a little too hard from the rear, and she bit down on his penis, and that was it. Head was off the table. You know what I'm saying? So you never know what form the trauma comes in. So that's the thing. So now how? The next thing is intensity. Right? Do you like strong? And this is really important if you're talking about sex toys, especially, right? But even intensity can kind of match speed, right? Do you like a slow intensity? Do you like a fast intensity? You like a strong? You know what I'm saying? You like pulsations? You like pressure? So you got to think about, what does that mean, right? Because even certain areas, you might not like your nipples licked that heavy, or some people like, no, I want you to practically take that thing off. Some people like, I need a lot of nipple stimulation, and people's like, that's too hard, right? So it's kind of getting a sense with yourself. What does that feel like? Do I like just a simple rub? Do I want to pinch? Do I want to grab? Do I like how it feels if I smack at them? Because that's also a sensation. So you doing that on the nipple area, and that's for men and women, right? Because the men like them nipples touch too sometimes, you know what I'm saying? I know a few of them, you touch that nipple, you're going to take it over the top. You thought you was going to make them come, and then you touch that, and next thing you know, they have no control, involuntary reaction. So, guys, make sure y'all figure out how you like your nipples handled. So when somebody start to touch you a certain way, you ain't got to sit there and pretend like you feel good, because that's important too, right? So that's another thing. And then the other thing that you want to think about or be mindful of while pleasure mapping is textures and sensations, right? So certain areas feel one way if you touch it with a dry hand, but certain areas feel a way if you touch it with a wet or lubricated hand, right? Same thing with a toy, right? It changes the feeling. So do you need to give a lick, or do you need, I always say, honestly, believe it or not, I even use things like lubricants and stuff like that, even on the other parts of my body, because just something sliding by with the hands or whatever feels more like a wet mouth than just your dry fingers. But sometimes the fact that you can grip better with dry hands in certain areas work out better. I don't like how a wet hand smacking my cheeks feels. That's a trigger for me. I used to get beat as a kid with a belt. And sometimes fresh out the bathtub. You can't spank me with nothing wet. Okay, that's just bottom line. That's my no-fly zone. But do I like the spank? Yes. I like how it feels when the hand is dry, right? So what that means is you can't play with my genital areas and then come and smack my butt. Don't do that. I don't like that, right? So you have to understand that part of it too. So do you want it slippery? Do you like it smooth? Do you like to add sensation, or do you like to deprive sensation? Now, adding sensation is something that's common. More people are more open to that. But deprivation is another thing, right? I talk about this a lot when I'm teaching people when I'm talking about autism. But sometimes too much sensation could also send you into overload, right? I have people who are overstimulated by sight. There are people who I love what it sounds like when it's wet and it's sloppy. There are other people like them sloppy sounds gross me out, right? Fragrances. Some people are like, I like natural body odor. I don't want you to smell like, island fragrance or whatever, tropical sensation. Some people are like, I just want you to smell like you. But other people is like, oh, when you put that special fragrance on, or that turns me on. So every single sense, from touch to taste, right? Do you like adding flavor to your play, or do you like when it tastes just like body fluids or whatever the case is that you like? Do you like the natural taste of, you know what I'm saying? So you have to be mindful of those sensations, because too much or too little can also shift your experience and how you feel about something, right? I'll be very the first to say, as much as I enjoy slobbing on a knob, I don't want any MSG in my diet. And sometimes the surface of the penis tastes like it's been coated in MSG, because it's like, that's a little too much of a sodium content for me. Maybe that tastes like you like I'm trying to marinate a steak. What are we doing down there, right? So not a fan of that, especially semen that tastes like you. Did you have asparagus today? Like, what are we tasting? So I know that about myself, right? I will be the first to show up to the party with my own flavored lube, because we got to counteract that. If you want me to show up my best self, I got to get away from that. So it's just a matter, and some of that is out of control, because like even on a certain day, depending on what you eat, it can heavily change what some of that looks like, right? So let's talk about some of my recommended things or products, right? Because certain touches is one thing. I talked about, giving yourself that rub, giving yourself that sensual. How does it feel when you feel your hands pass your body like this? Do you like the feel of nails, right? Do you like smack sensations? Do you like a firm grab or squeeze? Do you hug yourself? How does it feel when when you reach around yourself and you go like this, right? How does it feel? Do you go, oh, I feel good, right? You know what I'm saying? These are the questions you have to ask yourself. And if you're with a partner, it's the same. So before I go into products, I'm going to talk about some tips, right? We talked about self-pluration a little bit, right? When you're trying to choose a toy or any of those types of things, there's certain things you need to take into play. And when you're with a partner, there's certain things you need to take into play, right? So with a partner, pleasure mapping happens a couple ways. First is, I usually recommend visual, right? And what that means is, if you are comfortable with each other, watch each other stimulate yourself. This right here is not only really informational, but it's also a trust building exercise, because most people don't invite other people into what it looks like when they're in their own zone, right? So to share that with somebody for a moment, that's a very strong trusting piece and component in its own. But you also might find yourself realizing how stimulated you are by the sight of it, right? I never thought I would like, I didn't personally like when guys would just send me random, eggplant pics and whatever the case is. But what I learned about myself is I appreciate a good cum shot, right? So maybe I don't want don't send me the still image, but I like watching the process, and seeing it shoot out was visually like, it was like, close your mouth, Kasha, close your mouth, sis. It's okay. But I would see it splash out, and I'm over here trying to catch the drool from my mouth. You like that. You like watching penis come, right? Wouldn't have known that if I didn't watch a penis in front of me coming. Right? So that's the first thing. But I also noticed, right, how they build their intensity, right? So your partner might notice, like, they might just be trying to maintain the erection. It might be a slow stroke. It might be a long one. Some guys really only focus on the tip of their penis when they're masturbating. Some guys like to feel entire shaft stimulation. Also, they might move at a certain speed to keep themselves stabilized. But when they're ready to actually ejaculate, they go faster. We do the same thing as women. Right? When you're playing with yourself, you might start with that slow rub, right? Or you might even, I always recommend people, if you're using a toy, start with it on a low vibration setting. And then as soon as you get comfortable, take it up a tiny notch. Allow it to build up, right? Little by little. And then get to that last one. But we start getting very active, right? So if you're pleasure mapping as a woman by yourself, and you're trying to figure out what types of responses your genital area now has, my recommendation is to do it the first time in an upright position like I am, or a position where you can lay back with your legs kind of upward, right? And like with your feet in the bed, where you're creating your legs with your knees up. Reason being is because these are all positions that makes it very easy for you to grind in, right? So a position that you can grind in. The edge of the bed could be a good one. A chair could be a good one. Or in the bed real comfortable, where you could kind of move and give yourself that motion, right? When you're doing that, what that essentially creates is momentum towards that area. A lot of people don't realize, but for a woman, movement is very essential to the orgasm. And I'm not just talking about ejaculation. It's not just coming. We're talking about the orgasm. Because when your body's in motion, your blood is pumping more. Right? You ever notice that when you start dancing, after you dance from a good song, you're like, whew, whew. You know, you the way your breath feels. Right? That's because you're getting your body, your blood pumped up, just like in a good workout. So if you stay still, blood is not circulating as much as when you're doing this. Right? If I'm pushing and touching myself at the same time, I'm driving that blood and sensation, right, to the areas that I'm stimulating. So just like for men, where an erection is a large flow of blood to that organ, it's the same thing for women. And we got 8,000 nerve endings down there and approximately 4,000 in the nipples that are connected to one another. Right? So just giving that motion, giving that movement. So if you are in a position where you're sitting, right, and you're a woman right now, okay, I just want you to take 2 seconds and we're going to grind just a little bit, right? And I'm not going to play this for too long because it's one of those things that if we do, then, you know, Instagram going to cut me off over there, right? But I'm going to put the song. Okay. And I want you to just rock forward and back, right? Grind against your pelvic area. Let's go. And feel how your body feels from doing it in that lower area. Now, I want you to add another element. I want you to breathe in like this. I want you to give me that. Okay? Now, I'm going to bring the music down. Okay? How your body feel, right? In the chat, let me know, right? Participate. Let me know. How did your body feel just from sitting there grinding? You start to feel that body building up. You might even feel your pelvic floor contract. Those intimate areas might start tingling just from doing that by yourself. So if you're not adding motion, just motion without any direct stimulation to that area of your body gets that area going, right? If you struggle with any libido, right? I see you on Instagram, so sexy as hell, okay? If you struggle with libido, and you're trying to figure out how to get yourself in the mood, just stand there and do that. And I want you to, if you real bold, get a camera or mirror in front of you and look at yourself and touch it. Just be like, yes, just start feeling yourself. Now, a guy might take for granted that same thing. But when a guy is penetrating a woman or any partner they may have, what is it? Emotion of the body. Boom, boom, boom. So don't think it's because you're a guy you can't hit it too and see how it feels to be in that mode. Okay, I'm killing. So same thing applies, but directly for a female genitalia, right? That part of your body will respond heavily to movement. So when you're pleasure mapping, you want to start touch yourself, but don't necessarily move the whole time. Move. Right? Feel sexy. That's why I always say add a good music or relaxing thing to it. And then when you start to feel like it's getting more exciting, you could increase what you're adding to it. Okay? So now we're going to phase up into a little bit of arousal and stimulation and stuff like that. I always recommend for a person who finds themselves trying to get more moist or trying to get more wet, there are certain things that you can do. I'm going to show you guys something with lube. I know a lot of times people hear lube and they think, oh, I'm already wet, I'm already juicy, I'm already this. Lube is not for just wetness. Lube is to actually keep your body coated with a protective layer that actually helps reduce the chances of bacterial infections. And the reason why we don't realize that is because if you have internal friction that's moving, right, we might get real moist and wet. But the bottom line is certain positions might get you a little more aroused, certain types of stimulation, and there are times where you're like, this is not really giving it like it is, and it might dry just a little bit, right? It might be enough moisture, but you start to feel a little bit more of the friction in an uncomfortable way. That when that starts to happen, what's going to begin happening is what we call micro tearing. So they're really small abrasions from the friction on the internal wall of the vaginal canal that happen that you cannot see with your eyes. But the minute you start creating those abrasions on the inside, any sort of bacteria can now be more susceptibly into that part of the body, which can lead to bacterial vaginosis and things like that, right? So a lot of times we don't realize that, because if you're doing something like sex or even with fingers or a toy and there's no lubricant involved, you actually increase the opportunity for that to happen. Okay, especially if you're someone who's already sensitive and prone to those types of infections. One of the safest ways you can kind of safeguard yourself from that is just by that. I see a hand up. I'm going to ask if you could drop a message to me in the chat just so I can see it and respond directly to what you are putting in with your hand up. I think it says Andre. I'm a little far from the screen to see your name, but shoot me a message. If you want to send it privately, you can too. So lube. A lot of times we struggle with this, how to choose it, all those types of things. So what I want to do is kind of give you a little bit of a basis or go-how, right? I personally is someone who doesn't have a hard time getting in an intimate space and getting moist and things like that. But I love how things feel better when it remains slippery and slide. So one of my favorite lubricants that we have is called Silk, right? It's a hybrid lube. And I'm going to share my screen really quick so you guys can see as I'm talking about it. I have the products in front of me, but that gives you a really close view on your screen, right? So Silk is a lube that's actually hybrid. It's part silicone, part water-based, but it's majority water-based. So it's only about, I want to say 9%, if I'm remembering correctly, 9% of silicone. And the reason why that is good is because silicone doesn't require preservatives to remain slippery, right? And so that's one thing that's great about it. But also it's safer to use in areas and environments where you might be around water, or when you add water to it, it actually makes it more slippery, right? So yes, it will be. It will be. I'll keep it available on there. So what you want to do with that is look at different types of lube textures. So I'm going to show you the difference between a water-based lube and something that might have a little bit more texture to it, right? And so this in my hand is a flavored water-based lube. This is a chocolate flavor. We have a bunch of flavors. We have green apple, strawberry pomegranate. We have tangerine peach. This is the chocolate one. And they're all vegan. All of our lubricants are vegan. So that's one thing I love too. When you use a water-based lube, you're going to get a consistency that looks like that. Maybe it's not as, it's got a little bit of thickness to it. Y'all see it there? Y'all see it here. It's got a little bit of moisture to it where my hands are definitely slipping and sliding, but not super, super thick. Now, we have another lube called On the Daily. Now, this lube actually has aloe added to it, which actually helps add moisture to the vaginal environment. So if you struggle with dryness or anything like that, this can actually help add moisture to the area to help increase your vaginal wetness too. That and drinking water. But as I'm dripping it out, you can see it's thicker. It's a little thicker. You can see as I'm pulling my fingers away, you can see the residue of it leaving behind a little bit better. So different lubes will have different consistencies that will change the sensation of feeling, right? So what I will tell you, if you're allergic to silicone, then you want to stick to a water-based lube, right? But if you're not, then you can use something like Silk, or you can use what we call Sleek, which is 100% silicone. Sleek is also my recommendation for anyone who's going to be a beginner at maybe anal sex, okay? So there's that type of situation, right? Now, if you're someone who, our water-based lube is going to be really, really phenomenal. Using On the Daily is actually safe for the person who has a silicone allergy because there's no silicone in this. And the thing that adds the thickness to it is actually the aloe ingredient that's going to make it just a little bit more moisture rich than your average water-based lube, okay? So those are the things that you want to think about. You want to add moisture to the situation and add in lubrication. So I would say discomfort, dryness, On the Daily. A hybrid lube where you get a little bit of that water-based consistency, but safe enough for silicone toys. Because here's what a lot of people don't know. You cannot use silicone lubricant on a silicone toy. You cannot use silicone lubricant on a silicone toy. Even if the toy is high quality, it just over time can actually damage the product. So you don't want to do that. But silicone is really great for shower fun and anal exploration. It's also good for that all night long marathon kind of sex. All right. So those were that. Now, as far as arousal products and enhancements, I'm going to tell you guys, if you're someone who wants to explore arousal on the nipples, Kiss and Tingle. Right? Kiss and Tingle is actually flavored. Okay, and this is meant for the nipples or other areas. You can put it on your lips. You can use it on your neck. All those types of things in nipple area. You don't want to use this in your genital area. Okay, very important. You don't want to use this on your genital area. But you would take a pea-sized amount of it, right? And then you would rub it onto the clitoral. I said clitoral. No, take that out. I didn't say that. Nipple. You want to rub it onto your nipples. And I like to rub the sensation into it to where I start to feel it warm up a little bit on my hands. Because when you remove your hands and you kind of blow, you kind of take the sensation from a warm to a cool, tingly sensation. What's going to happen is that area of the body is going to be more sensitive to any stimulation, whether it be touch, whether it be lick, whether it be suction, whether it be any of that. Okay. Yes, you can use it if you have piercings. That's a great question, right? So you can use it if you have piercings, and that's perfectly fine. You can also directly put it on your lips so that when you kiss a person anywhere on their body, they actually feel a sensation from your kiss too. Just make sure that you clean it off before you go, down below. Very important. But we ain't gonna leave down below out. All right. There are flavored things, but one of my favorite things for the down below area, right, is we have this thing called Enthrall Me. This one, and I see your question in the chat. I'm going to answer you, Andre. This is called our Unwind Arousal Balm. Now, this one has CBD. There is one that doesn't have CBD as well. I personally like the CBD one because that baby be having me feel, the songs. When we talk about the songs that play, that's straight neo soul playlist every time CBD touch these areas. But this is safe enough to use on the nipples, the lips, and on the genital areas, including the male penis, especially the head of the penis where it's already very sensitive. If you rub this onto that area, it'll even get more sensitive. This doesn't have a taste to it, so it's unflavored, right? And you won't really taste it at all either. You want to rub it in really good, but that's going to add a sensation. My only advice is that you do a tiny bit at a time. Okay, so if I can give you an idea, we're talking about starting with something as small as that. Because here's the thing about that part of the body, especially the clitoris, the penis, actually processes and pulls into its pores things a lot more intensely than other areas of the skin, because the skin that overlays over that part of the body is thinner than the rest of your body, which means your body will absorb the CBD that much more quicker. So you don't want to overdo too much, because you might find yourself so sensitive that you're like, can't come down, right? So you want to start low, and if you feel like you want more, then add it, but don't start too hot. Okay. So I like to use this on that area. I like to use the CBD in my conveniently also on my neck area. This area is very sensitive for me. I also like to use CBD. This might be something that people don't do, but I'm very sensitive down the nape of my back and my spine area. So I like to take a little bit of CBD, rubbing it down that, because that's a very sensitive area. So if my partner licks or kisses there, it actually sends chills through my body, right? So you can add arousal and enhancers to those things that if you find that you're trying to get yourself in the mood, it's not working. And those can actually help you set the tone. I really recommend this for anyone who has been a sexual assault victim in the past, who has experienced a sexual assault physically in the genital area. And the reason why I say that is because the biggest challenge sometimes is experiencing sensation in a way that you don't feel triggered by it, right? So these things will help you feel relaxed. These things will help you feel in the mood, and it'll help you really start to understand, like, okay, my mind is in the right place. I'm nice and mellowed out. So I recommend those types of things. And I actually recommend that a person who's experienced sexual assault and even domestic assault to start there, right? Give me 1 second, guys. I'm sorry. We got to close that out real quick. Hold on a minute. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. So you want to start there before you even go into adding penetrative things or stimulation to the areas first. You need to first know that your body likes certain touches and that it's safe, that you feel safe touching yourself a certain way, and your partner too. Right? I've had people come to me and say, I get this way with my partner. Well, you need to have your partner start with the rest of your body. Okay? And then work it up. Now, after we get to that, there is a book that I will share with some folks that I found that is really helpful, especially if you're a sapiosexual like myself or a little bit nerdy. This book is called Tickle Your Fancy. Right? This is one of our books, but it's written by Dr. Sadie Allison, and she's another pleasure coach out there. And the reason why I like this book is because it's not big. That's the first thing, right? But the other thing is, this is specifically for my women listeners, but this is a woman's guide to sexual pleasure. So this book right here has over 30 different sensational textures in it. And what I love about it is it's super visual. So let me get this closer so you guys can see up here. Right? It's a very visual book. So it shows you the positioning, it shows you the types of touches, all those types of things with good explanations, but it goes really through good through anatomy and stuff. So if you're looking for something to help you guide your way into it, this is a phenomenal grab. Okay? Phenomenal grab, right? I've also had people who said that they've went through this book, right, with their partners, and there was a lot that they both learned, right? I would say the same thing for men. There's a book called Tickle His Pickle. Now, this book was actually designed to give some how-to instructions around oral sex. But the portion that I think is really good for guys to understand is the portion that they talk about penis anatomy. I'll tell you this so many times. When I do fellatio parties, there are so many men who don't understand how their body actually comes, how they release ejaculation. They don't really understand the buildup, where it starts, where it ends, all those types of things. So for guys, don't ever not take the time to educate yourself on your own body, because again, if you experience stimulation a certain way because that's how someone's done it for you or how you've done it for yourself, you might be missing out. Okay? So now we're going to get to the nitty gritty, y'all. We're going to get to the nitty gritty. We're going to talk about some toys and stuff. Right? This is one of the parts that makes me very happy. Now, when I talk toys and vibes, I'm going to share the screen with you guys for a moment up here. And those of you guys, don't worry, you're going to see it in my hands too. Right? So, but I want you guys to have a visual as well. Vibes and toys. I have different toys into different categories because different recommendations for different situations. So I'm going to start with the beginner friendly toys, but also have good range, right? And the reason why I say that is because it's something that can work for a beginner, but if you're not a beginner and you kind of like a little bit more, they also can be very suitable for you too, right? But I'm going to tell you how we separate and differentiate what these things look like. A lot of people are familiar with Kandi Kisses. Kandi Kisses is one of our award-winning toys, right? And this is one that people are seeing on Housewives with Kandi and things like that too. So Kandi Kisses is our lipstick vibe, right? I'm holding the black one in my hand, but this also comes in red. I mean, it comes in pink, the one that I'm referencing. And that what this toy is discretion, right? So sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want people to know what I'm doing, or I want to be able to travel with my pleasure. I really like this for that. But this toy actually has 7 different settings. Okay, so it has a low, medium, and high, and then it has full pulsation patterns. It is fully waterproof. Okay, and so that means that it can go in the water with you if you like me, like the splish splash and rub a dub in your tub. But my favorite thing about this toy is how TSA friendly it is. Okay, if you are like me, you like to travel and go a place or 2 or 10. This is a toy that could be really, really good for you. And I say that because you can tuck it into your carry-on bag with the rest of your cosmetics so people will know what it is. I've also found that it's not intimidating in appearance. That's important too. So it keeps that top on it to make it look like a lipstick. It charges at the bottom. But when you power it on, you press and hold. And just so you know, all of our toys, you usually have to press and hold for about 3 seconds to power on and off. And that's because we don't want it going off at the wrong time. Because sometimes you're right in the midst of it and you hit that wrong button and you're like, oh, it's over. But also, we don't want it cutting on at the wrong time either. So all of those things are important. So Kandi Kisses is one of the beginner-friendly toys that can be good with range because the high on this toy is actually really pretty powerful. Right now, if you're someone who's like Kandi Kisses, it's a rechargeable toy, so it does cost a little bit more, $72. But if you want something that's a little bit more budget friendly, there are 2 other toys that I recommend, and one of which can be Rocket. Rocket is your basic bullet, right? It takes a battery though, right? So although this is covered by warranty, like Kandi Kisses, that has a 1-year warranty. This has a 30-day warranty, right? Now, my recommendation is if you're really a beginner and you've not experienced sex toys, I would not start on the higher end of the spectrum just because you might discover there's something you don't like, right? But if you know you like a little something, then go a little, go for it because you want something that's going to last with you a little longer too, right? So Rocket is a basic bullet similar to Kandi Kisses function, has a button that you use to control it at the bottom, and this is your basic on-the-go bullet. You'll notice that the black design is on purpose to be like a little bit more of a discretionary sort of thing, but that's a great one, right? Now, before I go into the one that I recommend most for beginner pleasure mappers, there's 2 toys that I really love for external mapping. right? The first one I'm going to talk about is get in touch. Okay, so let me close the screen so y'all have a good view of me on camera. And you can see it in my hand. Okay, get in touch is the finger vibe. Okay, what I like about it is it's on my hand. I don't have to hold it. That's the first thing. I also like that it's perfectly curved to help me get into those kind of fine-tuned spots and tap at them or rub at them. I also like that for a man, get in touch really works well on the shaft of a penis because it curves around it too. So you could actually use it on that area or under the testicle area as well. So this is something that can be versatile for either gender. But I like that it basically adds vibration. So if you started with those types of touches, now I've got this vibrator on my finger, and it's $38 for those who want to know. Vibrator on my finger that I could touch, rub at the nipples. I can come down into this area. I can even deal with the back door area. And this is not bad for a person who's intro back door, where you might not want something that's deep in there, but you might not mind playing with the outer extremity or the close rim of it. This could be great for that. This is also really good for the male perineum. Now, the male perineum, we know it as the gooch, right? The nacho region, nacho balls, nacho anus, right? But right in the in-between, it curves well for that area where you could give a nice massage to that part as well, right? So get in touch is super versatile. The other thing about it is it's rechargeable. So for $38, this is a rechargeable vibe. This have a 1-year warranty. Charger plugs in right there. And then we got 20 different settings. So when you're trying to figure out which erogenous zones and sensations you like, this can really do a lot, right? You can cycle through 20 settings to figure out what it feels like and what you like and what you don't like. Okay, so that right there is how get in touch can work. And because it has so many settings, you'll definitely find an intensity that matches for you. So this is one of my favorite items for pleasure mapping. Now, there is another one that is a strong competitor, okay? Now, this one is also one of the discreet designs, right? Y'all see it in my hand. Wouldn't look like a sex toy. Y'all see it over here? Y'all see it up there? Wouldn't think this was a sex toy, right? It's designed to look like a compact. So when I open it, you're going to see a mirror. Also great for pleasure mapping, if you catch my drift. Right? But what I like about this is the actual toy is sitting on the inside, just like that. Okay, it's attached to my fingers, similar to how Get in Touch can attach. This can attach to my hands, right? So also still control free, right? This is also very wide. Why do I like width? Because it's good for massage, right? Soothing the body, getting yourself in the mood on anybody, right? It's also great for good coverage. So if you have wider nipples or larger nipples or areolas, it's really good for that full surface coverage. If you also have a peekable clitoris or the clitoris that's a little larger, it's also good for surface coverage at the lower area. And similar to Get in Touch, it also can be used in the hand when you're giving that side stroke to the shaft of the penis, under the testicles, right? Or in the perineum gooch region. Okay? You're catching that. Now, here's why I really love this toy. If you're someone who's not a fan of internal toys, you can use this toy to stimulate the G-spot from the outside, right? And so the way that works is you would take the toy, and a lot of people don't realize that let's think about female anatomy for 2 seconds, right? If you reach inside the vagina and you go upwards and forward, you're hitting the clitoris, right? But let's think about what that looks like from the outside. I'm gonna take my fanny pack off. A lot of people who know me know I don't go nowhere without it, because if I lose that, I'll lose everything. But I'm gonna stand so you guys get a visual. So here in this area, right here in this part of the body, is actually the external location of the G-spot, right there. Because if I was inside and forward, I'd be hitting against this part of the wall. So to help yourself find it, you're gonna go about 3 to 4 inches below the belly button, and right there is a pressure point that presses down on the G-spot. So if I have this on my hand, right, and I'm pressing down against that part of my body in a way that I'm massaging and rubbing, I can hit my G-spot from the outside, right, just like that. I can kind of give it like that. Now let me give you a whole nother spectrum of this. If I had make me over and Get in Touch, I could be hitting both the external G-spot and the clitoris at the same time, right? If I have a partner, I could be hitting myself and helping them at the same time, right? Hands free. We out here, right? So these two right here could be a holy trifecta. Also, if you use this against your throat, I'm gonna let y'all finish that sentence. Y'all catching my drift. So I like that these are great toys that you can use by yourself, but I love that these are great toys that you can incorporate with a partner. And what I love most about it is not an intimidating visual for a male if your partner is male. So when it comes to introducing toys into the bedroom or getting them more open to it, you're not pulling up with 9-inch John, right? You pulling up with something that might have them like this. And then when you realize, oh, baby, you can get something out of this too, that openness changes. So you can use these on your hands to explore each other's body with different sensations and ways that you really feel alive. Even if you are not ready for the simulation of those areas, just this with a nice massage oil, okay? And we got plenty of those, massage oils, massage oil candles, all those types of things. We have a lot of that. But you could go ahead and put that onto the body and use this to give your partner a vibrating massage on their neck, on their back, on their legs. A lot of times, and I'll tell you this, let me just give y'all some free game if you happen to have a male partner. Them inner hamstrings on a man are a very tense area. The lower part of their gluteus area, right? The lower part of the butt is a very, very tense area oftentimes for men. They carry a lot of tension in their hands and their shoulders and stuff like that, like we do as well. But specifically in those areas, right, just the way the male body is designed, they naturally gain tension in those areas. For women, a lot of that tension is carried in our lower back, our hips as well, right? All good for those. But let me tell you, if you're a person who likes a good foot rub or foot massage, then you can also use this to massage the feet, the bottom parts of the feet, get that stimulation. Do you like that on your toes? You can come past that, all of that, right? I've even seen people use this on their knees to loosen those up, or if they have pain or arthritis or anything like that. So we got to take into all these things into situations because this will impact your sexual experience and people are coming to bed in pain, right? Release the tension, right? So gonna go forward, and I'll tell you, the reason why it sits in here is because this is actually where it charges. Charger plugs in the back, right? You open that up and there's a charger that's going to come with it. You can plug it in and charge it just like that. You can leave it on your dresser and nobody would know what it is, right? So that right there is the first part. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit of another beginner conversation, and a lot of the suction toys, like the Womanizer toys, like our Starlet, like our Womanizer Pro, like our Womanizer Duo, I recommend you utilizing toys like that if you don't want direct contact on the clitoris. If you're not a fan of vibration, that suction is phenomenal. And we have gift sets that have the Womanizer toys, the suction toys, along with the Enthrall pocket balm, so you can get that extra stimulation in gift sets already. And one of them actually comes with lubricant, right? So the reason I recommend those for people who want to start with a range, the Starlet, right? And I think the gift set is titled Star of Your Show. That comes with that. That comes with the arousal balm. It actually comes with a cute little pocket mirror or whatever the case is. That's a really good place to start for suction if you don't know if you like a lot of intensity, right? It has about 6 ranges on it, so it's pretty good. But if you want something with a little bit more intensity because maybe you struggle to feel sensation instead, then go for the Womanizer Pro 40. And if you want to take it up a notch and have internal stimulation while you have external stimulation from suction, so you can have a G-spot on the inside, you can have an external suction, then go for the Duo. Okay, because the Duo is going to give you suction on the outside and vibration on the inside. And the Duo is perfect if you got nosy kids, because when you pull it out, it actually stops vibrating. Like it only actually starts working when you have it positioned as if it's inside someone. So as soon as you pull it out, it actually stops. Right? That's really good if they come bursting in your room. I'm just kidding. But those are some for those. Now, I do want to say for guys, there's 2 things I recommend. One of which I forgot to pull out in person, but I'll show you it on screen here. Really quick, and that's our Helping Hand and R&B. So Helping Hand is really good for pleasure mapping for guys. It has a lot of different sensations. On the inside, it's ribbed so that it can feel, right, like the grip of being inside of a vaginal canal. But depending on what lube you use, so for a guy, I actually recommend trying out a warming lube or even our CBD serum, that could be a good lubricant to go ahead and use for something like that, because it changes the sensation by making it feel warm on the inside of the sleeve. But if you're doing it with a partner, you can use that same sleeve in a way to actually allow yourself to give your partner pleasure. While our sleeve is open-ended on both sides, so there's a hole at the bottom and at the top, which means that the penis can come completely through the sleeve, or you can use it inside the sleeve. Why that works is, once you take the penis through the sleeve and the head of it comes out on the other side, you can actually orally please it with your mouth if you're using it with your partner. So that's a really good one. But for guys, this is a good way for you to figure out what types of sensations you like and things like that with the sleeve. And then another thing that can be couples friendly, but also good for a man who's pleasure mapping, right? See that little emoji here. We need. Y'all gonna have to pull up for the fellatio parties too, y'all. Y'all get a very visual one of that example I just talked about. We can't do that on Instagram. Y'all gonna have to come onto the Zoom. But what you're gonna do with the ring is, constriction rings are designed to be something that adds constriction around. Why is this important? Sometimes for men, performance for themselves or with their partners are impacted. And their ability to maintain a strong erection, their ability to reach the point of ejaculation, and that's where erectile dysfunction can come in mind. Sometimes that erectile dysfunction is due to stress. Sometimes that dysfunction is due to medical related things, and even certain medications can cause a challenge. And them having to choose between their health and their sex life is a really difficult one. Right? Now, a ring is going to help them once they reach the point of erection. Go ahead and slide that on to the base of it, right? What that's going to do is trap the blood flow in the head of the penis, okay? Now, this one right here actually has ticklers, and there's a detachable bullet, okay? This bullet comes out. So you can use it without vibration or with, and this bullet can obviously be used independently as well. So this right here could be a little bit of a 2-for-1 special, right? If you want to get a good bullet and something you can use with your partner. $49 product right here. So when you slide it in, and this bullet is rechargeable, you slide it in, you'll actually get to see the different vibration settings that it has. And it's a very nice, intense vibration that this toy kind of carries, right? So then these parts of the ears will tickle at the clitoris every time penetration happens and goes inside, right? So it's a good couples toy, but this is also really good for a partner to use on their own. And you'll start to see that with this, a person can actually last longer in bed, right? And they also have sometimes very stronger sorts of ejaculations, they come a little harder, right? So constriction rings are designed for that. And that's what the main thing is for. And I always tell people, if you're going to have doggy angle position, flip it down like this, because once they're coming from under, that hits the clit, right? That makes sense? Okay, so that is some of the products I recommend for guys. Now, the last one I'm going to touch on before we switch out of this a little bit, right, is that back door. Okay? Anal sex can create trauma if not done properly. Okay? Bottom line. So there's a couple ways that you can improve it. One of which is position. Other one is which you use to introduce yourself to it. Now, this product is called P Curious. It's actually designed to help reach the male prostate for men who are open to that sensation, right? Because the prostate is actually where your semen goes to build up and gather before you actually shoot it out. So stimulating that area can do a thing or two, but we understand that that's a conversation that might not be for everyone. Okay, but even for a woman or anybody who wants to venture into any sort of anal play, the curve of this actually works naturally with the curve of the anal canal. So sometimes when people are starting with anal, what hurts is that they get to this point and something isn't curving downward, right? Or upward, depending on which position you're in. So certain positions, when you're going straight at it, you're kind of hitting a bit of a wall. You're hitting a wall, right? But if it's curving a bit, then you actually get into a place of more comfort. So I actually recommend anyone who is going into anal stimulation for the first time, lay on your back. Reason being is because when you lay on your back, and even taking it to another level, if you have get our love triangle, our sex position pillow, or pillow under you, bring yourself up on a curve, because what you help happen is anything that goes into you curve into that natural area so that it's not hitting a point that feels uncomfortable and is going to the area that feels sensational. Okay? So most people try these things in a bent over position. Don't recommend that. You do that once you're comfortable with it. Reason why is because when you're in a bent over position, right, you're here, And naturally, as soon as you feel something that don't feel right, what do? You go to that cat call. You're looking like that, right? You go straight to that cat cow position. But the minute your body goes from this to this, you're actually changing the way your anatomy is shaping up on the inside, and you're creating more pain. Okay? You're creating more pain for yourself than you would have experienced if not. You know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to get y'all to look like, we don't want that. So if you're on your back, you're in a more relaxed position where even if you clench a little bit, you're not shifting your body's positioning so much that you're actually creating more discomfort. That can be a little traumatizing and make you never want to do it again. Okay? So start on your back, legs upward, and the more of an angle you can put it on, the better. This is why I recommend the love triangle for this, because the love triangle is already on an angle. Okay? It'll help bring your body up. It's also good for G-spot stimulation as well. Right? So I would recommend as a beginner, start here. Absolutely with lubricant. Absolutely with lubricant. Okay? You can't do this without. Unlike the vaginal area for women, the back door don't give you no help. You're on your own. All right. So we don't want to add that in there. The last thing that I wanted to share with you guys was something that was a little fun. I actually tucked it here, and I think I might have actually mistakenly put away the other end of it. But we have our panty vibrator, which I could talk about it. We have our panty vibrator that has the remote control. And the reason why I'm speaking about that is because the panty vibrator is external, right? I'm going to add a little fun to it. This is a fun way to pleasure map. So I was kind of playing around with this yesterday. There's a set that we have that includes our Sex Inspires My Best Poetry book with our panty vibrator. And the reason why it's called the Let Me Talk To It gift set is because our panty vibrator actually has a remote control that's sound responsive. So there's a button that you can press that actually lets you talk to the toy. And whatever you say or whatever sound, music it receives, it turns into vibration. Okay, so you're literally going to be vibrating to the beat or vibrating to the words. So if you're sapio, if you're the kind of person who likes poetry, if you're the kind of person who likes any of that, you can go ahead and put your instrumental, sort of situation on. I could give y'all an experience, right? I did this on my Instagram or whatever the case is, where I was like, I'm gonna play this very, very sensual song or whatever the case is and see how I feel about it. But you gotta imagine what it might be like. I use this song, so I'm gonna play with that real quick, and we're wrapping towards the end of what we're talking about here today, guys. I'm gonna play this instrumental because it was a really good sort of one to start with. But what you want to do, get the beat, the poem, and that beat and your words together are going to equal vibration on your clit. Okay, so we're really getting into it. If we're really talking about sensational pleasure mapping, this is literally touchless pleasure mapping, but you might really get to see how strongly stimulated you are by any sorts of sound. Okay, so I'm going to hit play on an instrumental. Bring it up. Hold on. It's going to be like, the first time that I kissed you, I just knew it felt right. Then when I'm with you, I'm walking on cloud 9. Just being with you makes my whole life shine. And all of this is okay? It's down there at the same time. You have a partner, let them read it. Let them look at you. Let them hold you. Let their words vibrate you at the same time. Now, y'all might think this can only be used on a woman. I'm about to give you some free game. I always like to look out for my people. You can actually put the vibration under the testicle area, right? Because the actual toy that goes into that area will nestle perfectly under the testicles and against the perineum. Now, imagine your partner is stroking themselves, or you're stroking them, and they have this vibration under the balls area. So they're getting that little flavor like something is licking them. And while you're stroking it, you're reading it to them. The first time that I kissed you. And it's literally vibrating their body at the same time. Baby, intimate, okay? So this could be a really intimate way to have a moment with each other where you kind of reading it. And this is called Sex Inspires My Best Poetry. But this song is actually, the poems are in here are combined by song lyric. So it's perfect to kind of go together. So this is the Let Me Talk To It gift set. It's actually already on our on our gift set section of the website. So let me talk to a gift set. Check it out. All right. So that's one of the fun ways that I think you could add pleasure mapping to the experience with your partner, where y'all get to just enjoy multiple types of stimulation that are not just physical. All right, guys. So I'm going to screen share for this last moment, because I want to show you a couple things before we head on out this evening. We're probably in today about 5 minutes over 8:30. So forgive me if you have to run. That's okay. But I want to show you guys this. I'm not going to go deep into this because this is stuff that you'll get in the resources that we send out. If you are on Instagram and you want access to these resources, there is a link in our bio for this event. Go ahead and fill it out so that you're on our registration list, so that you also get this email sent out to you as well. Okay, it'll have the replay and everything. But I'm going to go here. I want you to understand there's an element of control and agency in your pleasure too. So exploring BDSM. A lot of people don't think about BDSM as a trauma thing, and I talked a little bit earlier about how it can help. But BDSM has a lot of healing aspects, right? And the same reasons that we talk about yoga, it includes breath work, it includes rhythm, it includes repetition. All of these things are heavily influential when it comes to kind of putting yourself in a mental space to decompress from trauma or get yourself familiar with the things you like. The other thing is that you have this physical embodiment of it. Okay, so what we're talking about there is the fact that BDSM allows you to take control of your sensations, whether you like soft, pain, what is your tolerance for pain, all those types of things. So that's one way that you can go about it. But the most important thing is that it really has a heavy emphasis on safety, sanity, and consensual behaviors. Nothing happens that you don't want to happen. Right? That's why safe words happen. That's why negotiations happen. That's why we have signals and ways to let a person know that we've reached our threshold. One of the common ways that you see employed is a traffic light. Green means go, yellow means slow it down a little, red is a hard stop. Right? So that's one way that you can go about it with your partner, especially if you've had a type of sexual trauma or anything that you're not sure what's going to trigger you, but you want to have a way to let them know that you're starting to feel something coming on so that they know to back it up a little bit. Okay? So it might sound crazy, but using a lot of people hear BDSM and they only think about the raw, rough. It's not just that. Okay? So there's that. But either the way it is that a lot of times people see BDSM in this way that is lacking pleasure and is lacking affection. But the truth is that's furthest from the truth, right? There's care, there's communication, there's trust. They're all key factors in this type of behavior. And then the other thing is communication. It puts communication at the forefront. You actually discuss with each other what you're open to or not, what you want to explore on that day or in the mood for on that day before you even start touching each other. So you have the ability to tell them up front, baby, I'm not in a rude mood today to be spanked around. Or you can say, babe, I want you to handle me rough. Whatever it is, right? I want to feel you in control. I want to take charge today. You have the ability to express that up front. Okay, so these are all actual healthy relationship tools, right? Because it helps you learn what each other's boundaries are at a given time and how to respect them. Okay, so that's one thing. The last thing is BDSM puts a heavy emphasis on aftercare. Okay, aftercare is basically how you take care of each other after a session or a sexual experience. So it could be adding that unwind back in and giving each other a nice sensual rub down and helping each other like, oh, that was nice. It could be, I like to be held after, right? It could be, no, I need a little bit of space and distance so that my body cannot have sensation for a little while, because touching me actually right now is overstimulating because I just released so much. So some people don't want to be touched after they've had an experience, right? If you like me, you like to be fed. My aftercare is food. It's very simple. Feed me. Have a cookie, have a donut, have an apple, have something there, please. Have something for me to put in my mouth. Something about food tastes so much better after I come. So that is something. We do these regular events monthly with different types of topics, and sometimes bi-weekly. So I see your message in the chat on Zoom. Okay, it's you're welcome, honey. The last part that I want to share is a lot of people here have some special circumstances. I'm not going to go through this, but I've put a lot of information in this packet. If you've experienced vaginismus, which is a common form of a sexual dysfunction that actually can be triggered by trauma, is when your pelvic floor involuntarily gets tightened and contracts, even when you don't want it to. So actually, sex can be more painful. I recommend a good set of dilators. I'll show you guys a range. I just dropped a bunch of them out, actually, by the way I picked it up. But it goes into a set like this, and then we have 5 different sizes that you'll start at the smallest. You'll work your way up. So you want to pair this with a nice lube or anything like that. And the last thing, yes, Dominique, you can rewatch it. We'll send a replay out. And then also for reproductive traumas and postpartum challenges. There's some recommendations. So I'm showing you that on screen here, and then it'll be in the guide, but also tells you what are some simple ways that you can deal with some of those circumstances, including erectile dysfunction, stamina, all that for our guys, as well as things that help for women who have some of those special circumstances. People might take for granted chemotherapy and radiation for cancer treatment is a heavy one, because those treatments actually directly impact your vaginal environment if you're a woman, and your ability to sometimes become erect or maintain erection if you're a man. Can you use the CBD arousal cream and lubricants and the clitoris stimulators if you're pregnant? You should, but I always tell people to check with their doctors about stuff. But CBD is not something that most doctors have an issue with during pregnancy, but just make sure, because I don't know, your individual pregnancy may be different, but personally it should not be a problem. However, the lubricants you can use 100% during pregnancy, and I recommend it more during pregnancy actually, because it keeps you, like, again, a more infection free. But the arousal cream, we have one that doesn't have CBD in it. So if your doctor says that's a no-go for you, you can use the regular Enthrall that has no CBD added. And there's plenty of other massage relaxation stuff that helps you get soothed and come down from it. Okay, so there's that. The last thing that I'll tell you, and I love to share this with people, is because literally what I'm doing right now, there are thousands of people across this country who do it, right? Bedroom Kandi is often seen as this company that's just about the sex toys. But the bottom line is our mission is to empower, educate, and earn, right? We have found a way to turn our passion and our purpose, right, into a paycheck, right? That's really what that is. But the company is so much bigger than just people who are putting toys on the table. We like to make sure people feel empowered. We want to make sure people are learning the things they need to learn to enjoy life, to enjoy sex, to enjoy self-care, to enjoy intimacy with themselves and with others. But we have found a way to do it and make money. Okay? So if you're interested in joining, right, there's a couple of things that I want you to think of. Well, if there's something you saw that I showed that you want to purchase, I want you to go, if you came with a consultant, go back to that consultant. They're going to get you taken care of. They're going to help you sign up. They're going to help you. Right now, you could become a consultant for $19. That's the lowest. And the most expensive kit's $250. So there's a good range of different kits that you can choose from in your budget. But becoming a consultant, you can do that 2 nights. You can join in 2 nights for as low as $19. There's a $35 kit. There's a $99 option. There's a $250 option. And there's a $199 option for people who just want to do like makeup and stuff like that. So literally join our family. As the director of training, I'd be the one who helps you launch, along with your team members and the rest of our community, help you grow your business in this community. We are on training calls every week, getting everybody together, right? But the other thing that I really want to emphasize in front of it is that we have fun. We have a good time, like legitimately doing these things, whether it's virtual like we are right now, whether it's in person, whether it's events, whether we have an essential book club, whether we having the ladies that travel on a go, orgasms on a go, whatever it is. There's so many ways that you can do this. Okay. This is so many ways that you can do this. But when I tell you, it could be so fulfilling, and it could be a nice extra piece, a couple dollars to put in your pocket, because look, it's a very lucrative business. We have 9 different things under our umbrella. That is not just our adult toys, but we have CBD products, as you've seen. We have Bath and Body collection. We have a men's grooming collection. We have all of our foreplay items. We have cosmetics, an entire cosmetic line. There's our BDSM collection, our sensual and sex education books. So there's so many different umbrellas of income under one opportunity. A lot of people see Kandi and say, oh, Kandi gets to these bags, so many bags. We have literally put 9 different industries under one business, and you can own that business for $19 or $35, or, you know what I'm saying? That's about the lowest you're going to see a startup cost, right? If you did not have someone invite you here directly, maybe you heard about this from our corporate text list, because I texted a lot of people today. If you learned about it from me, you already know how to connect with me, but you want to head over to bedroomkandi.com. Okay? If you had, someone said it in the chat. If you had someone invite you, go to those people. But if not, go to bedroomkandi.com, go to the join tab. And when you join, you'll get put on a team with someone. that will become your sponsor. So that's why we want to make sure that if you got invited by someone, you get attached to the person who got you here so that you can stay attached to your person, right? The same thing with purchasing. That person then receives credit for your purchase and helps grow them as well. But, we want to make sure that you're able to get the information no matter what, okay? So all of our consultants earn 40 to 60% commission. It's a really great take home, okay? Sell $100 worth of product, you put $40 in your pocket. Sell $4,000 worth of product, you put $2,400 in your pocket. So believe it or not, it's a lot of opportunity in this, but sometimes people don't join for the money. Sometimes people join because they're looking for community, and we've got a great big community. A lot of people who are entrepreneurs, and on top of that, there's opportunities for you to do something that's passion driven, or people actually figure out how to explore themselves through their consultantship because you get to use your discount to get your own stuff. So you got a lot of different things to map pleasure with in your own arsenal. So you really, you will get the support, you will get the suggestions. Bedroom Kandi changed my life. I have been in this industry, like I said, going on 11 years in another week. And this is the first company that I was with that felt like home. I had people who embraced me. I had people who taught me. I had people who gave so much to me that I was able to figure out what my passion was. I became a clinical sexologist because of Bedroom Kandi, because I went to a toy party and I met a young lady who was sexually assaulted and I wanted to help her, but I couldn't. So I became that because of Bedroom Kandi. And the school that I went to get the certification came to me because of Bedroom Kandi, because that person is affiliated with Bedroom Kandi, right? So join us if you really feel like this is something that could be something for you. And then you can use that discount to get those products that you might have liked, right? Last thing I want to say is very important because it is Sex Assault Awareness Month. You will receive a packet, and at the last page of this packet, you are going to receive resources. If you are someone who is a survivor, or you are someone who may have been assaulted, maybe someone who is aware that someone is being assaulted, there's a lot of things that go into this, y'all. I want to make sure you know how. These specific resources allow you to go and put in your zip codes or find specific help in your areas, because we know from the beginning of this call there are so many people on this line from all over the country and all that type of stuff. So there's one for male survivors, there's one for adult survivors, there's the National Sex Assault Hotline that allows you to report that assault. Then we have the state law databases where you understand what the laws around sex assault are in your areas. But I want to say this: you can support a sexual assault survivor by being brave, and that means believe them, respect their confidentiality, ask them what support looks like for them, value their boundaries, and empathize. Because sometimes we have people in our lives who don't know how to respond to our trauma. And these are some simple ways that you can do it. This is it. The beautiful thing about every Bedroom Kandi consultant is y'all all will be my team. Because that's literally what I do. I am sitting in this seat as Bedroom Kandi's director of training because I fell in love with this so much that I needed to find a way to give back to this community that gave so much to me. Okay? I'm someone who experienced reproductive trauma, and some of the consultants in this company were the people who took care of me when I lost my twin children. Right? Can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate this. So I hope you guys gained something tonight. I hope you guys got something tonight. I know that I do not regret this choice. I never will. And I'm looking forward to what the future holds. But the goal of tonight was to acknowledge the trauma. We did that. The second goal of tonight was to be like, all right, I'm ready to get to the point where I'm enjoying some things. We did that. We found out some ways to do it, how to do it by ourselves, how to do it with our partners. We found out some things we can add to make it the next level situation. We did that, right? So I think we're off to a good start. And I want to make sure you know what you do next. So that's why this page is here. Whether you become a consultant, whether you are looking into one of these resources, we here. Homework ain't never been so fun, y'all. Y'all getting ready to go and touch on some things, because the last thing on the list, and I said, is that y'all gonna be leaving with some tools to get to some orgasms, right? So my only request at this point is that you take what you learn and you get busy. Because we ain't gonna be crying tonight, right? We gonna be coming tonight. That's what the goal is. We're gonna try to come tonight. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm gonna play some music to roll us out of here, guys. let us know in the chat what you appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and make it so that people can unmute if they want to. And you have the ability to unmute yourselves. I'm going to go, let me find a good song that's good for touching yourself. Let's go find a good song for touching yourself, y'all. I think I got the perfect one in mind, actually, because this song is literally about touching yourself, right? So we're going to go with that one. Let me put up my volume a little something. This is a song. Those of you guys on Instagram, thanks for kicking us for a little while. We don't go live that much on BK's Instagram, but we're going to try to start doing that some more. So thank you for tuning in. And this song is about touching yourself. This song is about touching yourself. She said, what y'all going to do tonight?
I came home, say, around 2:45, still so high, hypnotized in a trance.
What we said? It felt, because it's buttery and brown, baby. Yes, it is.
You would have thought I needed help from this feeling that I felt.
What we said?
So shook, I had to catch my breath. Oops, there goes my shirt up over my head.
Take it off slow, y'all. When I take it off slow.
Oops, there goes my skirt.
Just going to your feet. Drop it down slow, y'all.
Ooh, some kind of touch.
What is that?
Caressing my legs.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my.
I'm ready to turn to red. I want you guys to go ahead and enjoy yourself. I'm so happy. Y'all can't hear it. Hold on now. Can y'all hear it now? Y'all got it now? Y'all got it now? Tell me if we're hearing it now. All right. Because I need y'all to feel it. Where'd it go? All right, Instagram, I'm going to shut it down over here because I ain't trying to get us kicked off for copyright. But we hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll save this live for anybody who wants to go back and check it out again.